Welcome to our Bedtime Stories channel. Tonight's story will take you on a gentle journey into sweet dreams.
This story is called The Firefly Librarian. It's about a little girl named Mira who meets a gentle firefly that guards a secret library of dreams. Together, they learn how to let worries rest and how to fall asleep with a calm heart. In a small town by a quiet lake, there lived a child named Mira who loved the soft hour when lamps blink on and the sky turns a gentle purple. Every night, she sat on her windowsill with a warm cup of milk and watched. Tiny lights float above the reeds. The lights looked like falling stars, but they were fireflies, drifting like slow boats over the water. One evening, as the wind carried the smell of rain and clean earth, a single firefly rose higher than the rest. It shone a warm, steady gold and traced a careful circle in the air, as if drawing a door that only kind hearts could see. The circle glowed and widened until a small shape stepped through. It was a firefly with a little satchel and round, kind glasses. He bowed to Mira with a bright wink. "Hello," he said in a voice as soft as blankets. "My name is Lumen. I am the Firefly Librarian. I keep a library where small thoughts and dreams can rest the night. I heard your mind rustle like pages, and I wondered if you would like to visit." Mira held her breath. "A library for dreams? Do you really keep one?" Lumen nodded. "It sits between the last hush of day and the first note of sleep. We gather wishes, worries, and tiny wonders, and we shelve them so mornings feel fresh." "Will it be far?" Mira asked. "Only as far as a deep breath," Lumen said. He lifted his satchel and a gentle glow spread across the room like warm honey. "Close your eyes, hold my light, and breathe in." Mira reached out. The glow wrapped her fingers like soft thread. She took a slow breath. The room sighed, the curtain waved, and they drifted like leaves up and out into the quiet purple sky. Below them, the lake opened like a calm book. The town lights made a gentle necklace along the shore. Crickets stitched a steady song. Mira felt lighter than a whisper, as if her worries had tiny ropes cut loose. "Where is the library?" she asked. Lumen pointed toward a silver path only a firefly could make. "Follow the ribbon, and you will see it. It always appears to those who ask kindly." They floated past a boat tied to a sleepy dock and above a garden where moonflowers yawned open. Mira smelled mint and wet wood, and her eyes grew warm with the quiet. In the distance, she saw a soft glow shaped like an arch. The light fluttered like wings, opening and closing, calling them near. "There it is," Lumen said. "The library waits, and tonight it has saved a seat just for you." Mira held the glow a little tighter and felt the night welcome her, like a book opening to the very first page. The library stood on a small island of reeds, with steps of smooth stones and a door woven from willow. Fireflies hovered like small lanterns above the entrance. When Lumen touched a door, it rustled like a page and opened to a wide, calm room. Inside, tall shelves curved in circles like ripples. Each shelf held glass jars with tiny warm lights. Each jar had a little tag tied with thread. Mira leaned close to read them. Giggle, first snow, paper boat that sailed, lost button found. Mom's humming, hand in mine. "Are these memories?" Mira asked in a hush. "Some are," Lumen said. "Some are wishes, and some are sweet thoughts that do not want to be lonely at night. When people go to sleep, the thoughts come here to rest. In the morning, they return brighter and softer, like shirts warmed by sun." A round table stood in the middle, with a velvet chair like a plum. On the table lay a bell, a feather, and a cup of chamomile steam. Lumen guided Mira to the chair. "Tonight, you may check in anything heavy and borrow something gentle to take back to your pillow." Mira sat, her legs barely touching the rug. The shelves hummed like bees in a very kind garden. Sometimes I worry I will forget my lines in the school play, she said. And sometimes I wish my grandpa's stories could last longer. And I think of the deep part of the lake and wonder what it keeps. We can shelve the worry, Lumen said gently, and we can borrow a story that does not end. As for the lake, perhaps it keeps secrets safe until we are ready to hear them. He placed the feather in Mira's hand. Hold this and breathe out the worry, like blowing dust from a book. The feather will catch it and carry it to a jar. Mira pressed the feather to her lips and let a slow breath flow over it. A tiny gray cloud drifted from her words, soft as milk steam. Lumen guided it into an empty jar, then tied on a tag that read stage fright. Be gentle. The gray turned to pale gold, like dawn on a spoon. Now ring the bell, he said. Mira rang it once. The sound was small and round and rolled through the room like a marble. Lights in other jars brightened and then settled. Pleased to have a new friend. You may borrow something now, Lumen said. He led Mira to a shelf that smelled like fresh paper. Here is story that keeps going. Return it with a yawn when you feel ready. Mira hugged the warm jar. The light inside swirled like tea. Sleep moved closer, soft and slow. She smiled at Lumen, and the librarian's glow answered like a nod, steady and sure, as if the night itself agreed to be gentle. Lumen led Mira around the circle of shelves. In a side room, a moth with soft wings sorted tags at a little desk. She wore a tiny blue scarf and smiled without a sound, as gentle as dust in a sunbeam. This is Mallow, our tag keeper, Lumen said. She writes the labels so thoughts know where to rest. Mallow dipped her pen and wrote in careful loops on a small card. For stories that want to stay, she slid it toward Mira. If you like, place this on a shelf when you are ready. Her eyes seemed to say. They passed a shelf that chimed faintly like teaspoons. On it were jars named Afternoon Rain, Warm Socks, Pillow Turned to the Cool Side, and Lullaby Without Words. Mira felt her shoulders ease. There was even a jar called Laugh from another room. She could almost hear it, soft and bright. May I borrow a lullaby too? Mira asked. You may borrow two things, Lumen said. One for comfort, one for courage. He took down Lullaby Without Words and a small jar named Steady Heart. The second jar did not shine as much, but it felt warm like a friend's hand. Back at the table, the cup of tea still sent a friendly cloud into the air. Lumen opened a drawer and brought out a narrow book with blank pages. This is the borrower's book, he said. Please write what you hope for, and the night will fold around it. Mira thought of Grandpa's stories by the stove, the ones that slowed time. She wrote in her neatest hand, I hope the stories last a little longer, just enough for one more smile. The words looked small on the page, but the page itself seemed to glow. Mallow brought over twine and a tiny silver key. For safekeeping, her quiet smile said, We do not lock much here, but sometimes hopes like to hold a key while they sleep. What about the deep part of the lake? Mira asked again, softer this time. Lumen led her to a tall window that looked out at the water. The sky had grown deeper purple, and a low moon brushed the reeds. Some places keep quiet because quiet is their job. The deep keeps time. It holds slow songs. When you listen with slow ears, it will share them. Mira nodded, feeling the slow song already, like a tide in her chest. She put the key in her pocket and held the jars close. The room hummed, and she felt brave in a small, steady way. Would you like to place your tag now? Lumen asked, handing her a little wooden ladder. Mira climbed too careful steps and slid the card onto a shelf. Between Warm Socks and Lullaby Without Words, the shelf gave a tiny sigh, like a cushion pleased to be useful. A soft rumble rolled over the lake, not a scary sound, just the kind that says rain is coming with a calm coat. The windows purled with tiny drops that slid like lazy snails. Inside the library, the lights grew warmer. Fireflies drifted from shelf to shelf, checking tags and humming low. The door opened with a whisper, and a small boy stepped in, led by a thin thread of light. His hair was damp and his eyes looked like puddles after rain. Lumen nodded to him kindly. "Welcome, Theo. The bell is there if you need it." Theo lifted the bell and let it ring once. The sound curled around him like a scarf. He held a small, folded paper in his hands. Mira glanced at Mallow, who gave a gentle nod. Some nights, visitors come in pairs and help each other without knowing they are helping. "What did you bring to shelf?" Lumen asked Theo. "My house is noisy," Theo said. "I love it, but sometimes the noise keeps my thoughts awake. I made a paper bird so the noise would have something to sit on, but it still flaps." Lumen's eyes warmed. "A fine idea. Would you like to give the bird a perch?" He brought a tiny jar marked "window at night. Open a crack." Theo placed the paper bird inside. The jar filled with a slow breeze and the bird settled, wings at rest. Mira smiled. "I borrowed story that keeps going," she told Theo. "In a jar named Steady Heart," Theo smiled back, and it looked like a small light in a rainy street. Mallow slipped over and set 2 cups of new tea on the table. Lumen dimmed the lamps to a quiet glow. The sound of rain on the roof made a friendly pattern, like someone tapping a soft drum far away. "Will the story really keep going?" Mira asked. "Stories know how to wait," Lumen said. "They go slow when needed and quick when it is time. They do not leave. They rest like cats on windowsills.com." Theo leaned on the table, his eyes half closed. "My noise feels sleepy now." "Good," said Lumen. "Jars do not fix the world. They simply help us set things down gently. When we do, our hands are free to hold the good that is already here." The rain eased. The windows cleared as if wiped by a kind hand. Far away, a frog tried a deep note and liked it so much he tried it again. "It is time to return," Lumen said softly. "Borrow what you hold, thank what you leave, and the path home will appear like a ribbon over water." Mira pressed the lullaby jar to her ear. It did not sing with words. It breathed like sea on sand. Theo hugged his jar with the paper bird. Together they stood by the door of woven willow, ready to follow the gentle ribbon back through the purple night. They stepped out into the soft air. The rain had turned to a mist that smelled like leaves and stone. Lumen raised his satchel, and the silver ribbon lifted from the reeds and unrolled across the lake. Fireflies lined it like small lamps along a quiet path. Mira and Theo walked side by side. The jars they carried glowed through their fingers. Mira opened Steady Heart a little and felt the warmth move from her palm to her chest. It did not make her bigger or louder. It made space, the way a door opens to let in light. Across the water, the town waited. Windows shone like friendly eyes. A dog barked, as if reminding the dark that it was seen. The ribbon guided their feet without hurry. Every few steps, Mira heard the lullaby breathe, and each time she did, her shoulders lowered a little more. Lumen drifted beside them, his glow steady. "Remember," he said, "when worries try to dance on your pillow, you can whisper, 'I will shelve you till morning.' You are not gone. You are cared for." Then breathe out and let the night hold them. Theo looked at his jar. The paper bird slept, its folded wings calm. "Do I have to bring the jar back?" he asked. "Everything returns," Lumen said, "but not in a rush. When your noise learns to sit, you will feel a yawn that fits like a key. That is the sign. Bring the jar in your next deep breath, and we will know." They reached the dock. The ribbon curled itself up, and the lake went on being a lake, patient and sure. Mira could see her window above the garden. Moonflowers still bloomed like quiet stars. "Thank you," Theo said. Lumen bowed, and his glasses caught a moon. Mira looked back at the island. From here, the library was a small shade among reeds, but she could feel its shape in her chest. like the memory of holding someone's hand. Will the story wait for me? She asked. It will sit on your pillow, Lumen said, and open when your eyes grow heavy. And in the morning, it will fold itself and return, leaving a soft place behind. The kind of place where a new day can stand kindly. At the window, the curtain lifted as if it knew them. Mira stepped inside and set the jars on the sill. The room held cool after-rain air. Lumen hovered by the glass. You wrote a hope in the borrower's book, he said. Keep the tiny key in your pocket when you sleep. In the morning, check your smile. If it lasts one breath longer than before, you will know the hope was heard. Mira touched the key. Thank you for finding me, she said. You called, said Lumen. I only answered. He drew a small circle in the air, and the silver path faded like mist in sun. Mira lay down and pulled the sheet to her chin. Outside, the lake breathed its slow breath. She set story that keeps going on the pillow beside her and opened the lid just a little. The room dimmed to the shade of a shell. From the jar came a soft beginning, the kind of Grandpa would choose on a quiet night. Once, by a warm stove, a river learned to sing, low and kind, moving without hurry. Mira closed her eyes. The story took a step and waited for her. When her breath matched, it went on. When she paused, it paused too, patient as a friend. She reached for steady heart and let it warm her hand. The heat was calm. It spread along her arms and settled behind her eyes. She thought of the school play and felt the worry look for a place to dance. I will shelve you till morning, she whispered. You are cared for. The worry sat down and went quiet, like a coat on a peg. Mira heard the tiny bell from the library ring somewhere far and near at once, like books turning in their sleep. The story went on. Grandpa's voice in her mind did not rush. It curved like the silver ribbon and opened little doors in her heart. The key in her pocket felt like a warm pebble. Her smile lasted one breath, then another. Across the lane, Theo climbed into bed with the jar and the paper bird. His house settled like a pond after rain. He yawned, and somewhere Mallow wrote a new label, for a boy whose quiet came home. Mira did not know when the story ended. It folded itself and floated like a boat on the lake inside her, ready to open again tomorrow. She dreamed of rippled shelves, tags on thread, warm socks and afternoon rain, of Lumen's glow and Mallow's soft smile, and of the deep lake keeping time with the moon. Morning came with light and birds trying one note after another. Mira woke with the kind of rest like fresh air. The jars were empty on the sill, their work finished. She touched the key in her pocket and found her smile waiting. At breakfast, she told Grandpa a joke she had saved, and his laugh held one breath longer. After school, she learned her lines and found that her voice did not shake. The worry knocked once and then went to sit by the window. That night, when the lamps blinked on and the sky turned purple, Mira stood at the window and looked toward the reeds. Thank you, she whispered to the island no one could see. Over the lake, a small gold light winked, and for a moment the air held the shape of a door. She closed her eyes and took a deep breath. Somewhere, the Firefly Librarian turned a page, and the night began anew, soft chapter, ready to be read.